It's Wednesday at 5 p.m. Eastern, so you know what that means. It's time for another episode of #EventIcons, presented by Endless Events, the show where you get to ask the icons of the events industry anything. Use the question panel on the webinar to submit your questions, or you can hop on Twitter. Submit your questions with #EventIcons. We'll be answering your questions live during the entire show. Before we get started, the more people we have watching, the better conversation we can have. So please help share #EventIcons on Twitter and Facebook. Just tell your friends to watch at www.event-icons.com. Now, without any further delay, this is #EventIcons.
Oh yeah, everybody. Event Icons, we are here, we are back. And you will notice there's only two of us today because we got a very special topic, and we thought this would be a really fun topic for both of us to do because we both love this very much. We've talked about this topic so much. So if you don't notice, I'm joined by the wonderful, the amazing Brandt Krueger. Thank you so much, Brandt, for joining us.
It's me. I just thought maybe you were talking about somebody else there.
Well, it was so funny for anyone who was on the audio. They're like, I don't know who it is. I don't know who it is. So that's why you got to watch the video. So I want to jump into this week's episode because we have like a million questions. We talk about this, I think, every time we hang out. So I know there's probably at least 2 hours of content here. We got to fit in an hour. So today we're talking about how to get work done on the road. They call it the Road Warrior. And I remember I was reading PC Magazine back when I was like 7 years old, and I saw it was like one of those episodes where like top tech for the business person, for the gamer, and like one of them was the Road Warrior, and he had a laptop and his hotspots and all the tech that we kind of like take for granted now, but it was like so like I remember gooing gaga and thinking, oh my gosh, to be able to use a computer on the road anywhere in the entire world, on the train. You know, they talk about using the computer on the train, and I was like, I've never even been on a train, and I want to do that. So this has always been like, I think, a dream of mine. And now that we do it, we ask ourselves, well, how the heck do you actually get work done on the road? And people seem to ask me that question all the time. I'm sure they ask you that. So I think we're here to kind of spill and share some of our best practices that we've had, and hopefully give you inspiration for building your habits. So yeah, Brandt, I mean, this was also part of a big dream episode of yours as well. What do we have in store for today?
Well, we spend so much time on the road that it just seemed like a natural. That I mean, and a lot of the conversations that we have on this show kind of touch on a lot of these things that we're going to talk about today, right? Whether it's health on the road or, gadgets or apps or just, the stuff that gets us through on a typical trip on the road. I mean, a lot of event planners, a lot of technical people, AV crew can be on the road 50% of the time or more. I mean, it can be a long.
I feel like mine's closer to like 110% of the time.
It definitely feels like that some way. I mean, and I went back and kind of looked at my last year, feeling like it was pushing 50%, and it was really only like 30 to 35% of the time on the road. I was like, wow, I felt like I was on the road all the time. Mm-hmm. So there's definitely a road warrior lifestyle. I mean, you think about that movie Into the Air, and there's a lot of truth to that, where it's just this whole culture of existence on planes and in airports and all that kind of stuff. So
I tell people I live in hotels and airplanes more than I live in Phoenix, actually.
Yeah. And we get to go to a lot of cool destinations, and then people are like, oh, that must have been amazing. And you're like, yeah, the hotel sports bar was great. They had a Reuben that was out of this world.
I heard the club was pretty good too.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. So I think everyone's probably laughing, and we see the numbers and everyone's pouring in and LOLing in the chat. So let's jump right on in. You guys have all heard our stories before. If you haven't yet, I forget what episodes they are, but go check out me and Brandt's episode. We have both interviewed each other multiple times, so go watch that. Today we're talking pure Roy Warrior stuff. So let's jump right on in. Which this is, I think, this is a question that started this conversation, this topic, which is, what is in your bag that you must travel with? That you use to keep personally going and everything like that. So I think we both have our bags right here, and we're going to talk about like our favorite things in them. So Brandt, why don't you kick it off and share what bag you're rocking. Let's start off with that. Like why you chose this bag, because that's obviously very important. It's on your backpack all the time, bag all the time. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, what's funny though is just that you notice the trends. So, when you see AV people, when you see technical directors, there's going to be a lot of similarities. And so I am rocking the traditional Swiss gear backpack, which a lot of AV technicians use. And you even see it among a lot of business passengers, I think. It's got the most pockets. It's guaranteed for life, and so the bag itself has been tried and true for a lot of years now. And it's got, you got to kind of start with the bag and work your way out from there.
Absolutely.
But I do have a bonus entry, if you'll permit.
Oh, I will permit. Permit. It's got to be good though. If he's bringing out a bonus entry, it's got to be good.
So the backpack I have on every single trip, right? Because it fits underneath the seat. It's got all my core gear on it. But on larger shows,
drum roll, please, everyone in the audience.
I went for the Pelican.
Oh yeah, okay.
The Pelican 1510,
which they all have weird names based on like their capacities.
And so for those that are watching and those that are listening, the 1510 is exactly the size of carry-on, the suggested carry-on luggage that you can bring. So it fits in almost every airplane's overhead storage bin. Awesome. And if you're going to they're not cheap. There's a lot of knockoffs, but it's another one of those products that's guaranteed forever. You will have it forever. You will buy one, you will have it forever. The recommendations that were given to me is also make sure it comes with it doesn't come with, you have to pay extra for the in the lid organizer. Mm-hmm. So inside the lid, it says a little net, and it's got all little zippers and things like that. So you can put all kinds of cables and things like that on those. So that's my bonus pick. Is I've got the bag that I bring on every single show, but then when I really need to have everything with me, I bring the Pelican case.
I love it. I'm definitely obsessed with bags. Like you said, like the bag is where you start off with. If you're looking for bags, it's a lot preference and functionality. Like you said, like you could look, like if I saw that Swiss bag, I'd be like, meh, and you'll see what I'm rocking a little bit. But I see a lot of people have it because they love having that many pockets. But if you're looking for good bags, resources that I recommend, there's a site called Carryology, like Carrylogy. I think I spelled that right. Carryology. And it's like a review site for bags and everything from suitcases to backpacks. And, they do in-depth video reviews. I love that site. Very much recommend that. Also, if you're looking for cool bags, I've done a lot of like one bag travel where you wear a backpack and go through 3 months in Europe with just one backpack. And a website, a YouTube channel I absolutely love. He's not for everybody, but his name is Chase Reeves. Chase Reeves Reviews. And he does bag reviews, and he's on the Carryology site too. But he's brutally honest, and his humor is hilarious when he makes fun of bags. So highly recommend those. That's a good place to start to learn. And Chase Reeves is actually who recommended this bag to me. And I saw it, and I thought, wow, that's a good-looking bag. And then he showed some of the features, and I lost my mind. So ready for drum roll?
Bring it.
It's called the Peak Designs Everyday Carry. So
it's stylish.
It's stylish. I have my like little custom tag that shows like a Google Street View of my neighborhood and has my like name on the back. It holds a water bottle. The reason I love it is that it's actually designed for photographers, and I actually don't shoot photo, but it has these side entry bags that allow you to get into anywhere on the side of the bag, so you can get to the bottom really, really quickly. Which it comes with some dividers and things that I've kind of like opted out of using, but it looks really cool. It expands, so you have these different magnetic clasps. So if you need a little bit more room, you can make it happen. I absolutely love it because it's a little bit more rigid. And I don't like the backpacks that like kind of like slump over. And I'm afraid like if I drop my laptop, it's going to be host. Like, like I actually don't have my laptop in this, but I definitely feel comfortable throwing this bag. As I probably broke something in my apartment. I'm gonna have to go back and get that because there's more stuff in there that would show up.
Well, you're doing that. I can feel. But I will say that even with my Swiss gear, the Swiss gear has fantastic padding, but not on the bottom. And I have absolutely put a dent in a brand new MacBook Pro by it getting dropped too hard on the bottom. And so I will give you that for sure.
Yeah, definitely. So look at all those things. There's a lot of like different, bags that you can look into that sort of stuff. But like I'm wearing my backpack most of the time. And, I used to wear like just a nondescript backpack, but then I realized I was like going in business meetings. So I was like, I need something a little bit more stylish. I also want something slightly smaller because if I get a big bag like yours, I just end up filling it completely. And my bag's like, oh my God, I'm carrying Mount Olympus on my back. So, all right, that's about bags. So really quick, you usually travel then with 3 bags. If you're going to a show, you have a backpack, a Pelican, and your suitcase?
Not usually, no. The vast majority of the time I have just the backpack and the carry-on bag. It's only if I'm really wanting to make sure I've got every adapter, every cable, cool. Possibly a camera or something along those lines that the Pelican comes out.
Cool. Very cool. I love it.
Or sometimes I've had to transport more than a couple laptops, so I'll do that as well, and use that as the carry-on. I'll check my regular bag and then carry on the Pelican.
Interesting.
Yeah.
And do you do TSA pre-check or global entry?
Pre-check, absolutely. Best $100 I ever spent in my life. I did use the full-on global entry, so it was global entry and pre-check. Yeah, we can talk about that for a second. I mean, that has saved my bacon so many times when you're running late, not just flying international, but also just regular transport. And they had a security incident in LAX once, and the lines were down the hall, out the door. It was crazy, and all of a sudden I saw somebody sneaking by with a flight attendant or not even a flight attendant, someone who worked for the airline, who was saying pre-check, like really quietly. And I was like, yeah, I'm pre-check. And we went by the entire lines, all the way past the lines, through, wow. into where the pre-check line started. And I probably would have missed my flight. And that's happened more than a couple of times.
Oh, wow. Yeah, I think definitely there's some airports where the problem I've been having with pre-check is that a lot of times it goes just as fast as normal, but the 1 or 2 times that I fly and there's a huge long line, it's definitely saved my bacon. Definitely. I mean, it's proven that they're probably going to keep raising the rates for it too. Yeah. So, last 5 years, it's $100 for the global entry one, which allows you to get back into the country if you're coming from Canada or Mexico really easily. I mean, technically any country, but if you're doing, on the Canada side, you definitely see a difference. Mm-hmm. And I highly recommend it. Get it while it's cheap right now. And I think the more they do the pre-check stuff, the better, the faster you move. All right.
It's just less hassle too. I mean, you don't have to take, like we're obviously traveling with equipment a lot. Like I just said, I'm frequently having to carry multiple laptops at a time. When you're pre-check, you don't have to usually pull all of those out. Only very rarely when they've got the pre-check line shut down or something like that, do you have to start pulling laptops out. So
I had to take my shoes off this week. I was so disappointed.
Yeah. For the first time in probably years, I would imagine.
Yeah, totally. Okay. So we've gone from bags. We've talked a little bit about like carry-ons, pre-check. Let's talk a little bit about like what you're using for a laptop, because that's obviously like our command central, right? You're doing emails. I do phone calls from my video calls through it. What are you rocking? What was your choice? Well, let me do mine, because mine's more like boring, and yours is way more exciting.
Not necessarily.
I want to go first because I'm not as excited. So I was a MacBook user for years. I loved Apple. I haven't been happy with my last 15-inch MacBook. It still is the most powerful laptop you can buy, I think. But I didn't want to support Apple anymore. That's pretty much the short end of it. So I ended up switching over to Team Windows, and I'm really happy with switching to Windows because now I have a desktop up here running Windows. And just as far as cost-wise, you just get more laptop for the bang. So I'm rocking the Surface Pro, which is made by Microsoft. You've all seen this before with a little touch keyboard. I'm running the i7 model, so the most beefed-out version you can get. This thing can't do video editing. It can barely run Photoshop. It actually struggles when we do this podcast remotely to run the podcast, hence why I don't host the podcast anymore remotely. But it's good because these guys are more interesting than I am, so I need to be on the show less anyways. But I highly recommend it. My favorite part about it, and I know this is something that you loved about the iPad Pro, is that I love that I can fold it over on site and have all my documents, emails, anything I need. I just throw my hotspot in my pocket and walk all around a convention show floor and have everything I need at any given moment. No restrictions available, which I absolutely, that's my favorite part of it probably. So, but you've got yours is a more non-traditional, and you're trying something really new as of like 3 weeks ago. You want to tell everybody about that?
Yeah, and then after we do that, I want to get into accessories a little bit too. Just coming back a little bit to what's in the bag, because there are certain accessories that I carry with me everywhere as well that relate to what we're talking about. But I just want to give you a little extra credit because you went cold turkey on Apple. I mean, you were just done, and like there was no like testing phase or trying, I've been slowly trying new things, and you were just like, I'm done. I'm out. I'm buying the Surface.
I was in New York City doing the Warner Brothers event. I flew into Phoenix I was only in Phoenix for 12 hours. I sold my laptop, went to the Microsoft store, bought one, and flew and met you in Orlando for that other event. And I never used that laptop. First time I used it was on the airplane.
That's burning the boats before you even get to where you're
going. Don't do that if you have like serious I can get stuff set up real quick. So don't ever do that.
Well, I'm with you. Like I've been struggling trying to find that perfect machine. And so I've got an aging MacBook Pro as well. And it's still a beast. It still works pretty well. It's starting to show its age a little bit as Apple's getting fussier and fussier about forcing updates, basically. So I've been looking. And so instead of going cold turkey, I kind of looked at all of the various options, and all of them did 80 to 90% of what I wanted, but none of them did 100% of what I wanted. The iPad could do handwriting recognition, and it was lightweight and easy to carry, and I could present from it. But the MacBook could do video editing and, stuff like that. So, since none of them could do all of that I wanted, I went with one of the cheapest options. So I've actually been experimenting with Chromebooks. So I've got the Samsung Pro Chromebook, it's about $475 compared to a MacBook Pro, which will run you easily $3,000 now, just to get halfway decent specs. And so, I could buy so many of these and then just throw them away at the end of the event for what I was paying for that. And I've been really actually quite happy with it. So there's things that I can't do with it. I can't do, heavy duty video editing, but you can do some video editing. You can do basic level video editing. You can do basic level photo editing because, and this was the key that brought me in, it runs some Android apps. It's not 100% compatible, but it's compatible with most of the big ones. So you can use Snapseed to edit photos. You can use, a lot of the Microsoft software runs just great on it. So including Word and Excel, because they've put a lot of effort into their Android apps. And then the big thing is I live in the Chrome browser. So I have all my plugins in Chrome. And so the iPad hobbles the Chrome browser really significantly to the point where it doesn't run any of the plugins. Nothing quite looks the same. And so I've been really very happy with it. And the final kind of feature that I'll point out is that it came with a built-in pen. So just push it in, the little pen pops right out, just like a lot of the other Samsung products. And then like yours will, I can just flip it around, and I've got a tablet mode, and it opens right up. I was sitting on the couch, we're doing some emails. Oh man, I'm late for a phone call. I quick flipped around the tablet, and it does handwriting recognition just like the iPad. So the pen support is not as perfect, as smooth as the iPad, because that's like probably the gold standard when it comes to it, but it's good enough, and it recognizes my crappy handwriting and turns it into text. Yeah, I have the worst handwriting in the world, and it turns it almost perfectly, almost flawlessly into text. I was done with the phone call, copy, paste, and it was in my OneNote to be saved with my other meeting archives. Awesome. So I've been very happy with it. You can buy other pencils too. That's the other thing about the iPad, is it's basically just Apple's pen that you can use on it. So this is the Staedtler Norris. So it's actually designed to look like a pencil. It looks exactly like a Staedtler pencil, and it works great. And it's got the same weight as a pencil. So you really just feel like you're taking notes.
Wow. How retro.
Yeah. Loving it. So doesn't do everything that I need, but it does 80 to 90% of what I need, weighs practically nothing, runs on USB-C power for everything. So I'm still kind of having to redo all the accessories, but all in all, very happy with it. And honestly, for most people, it would be a perfect on-site machine. Just run things in Chrome. You can run the Word, you can run the Office documents offline if you need to. And then, if you're not editing video or photos, it's great.
Cool. Very cool. I found too that one of the tough things is also relying. We've gotten so much to this point where computers are so powerful. Everyone wants to have like one machine to do it all.
Yeah.
Like I've been really happy having a desktop computer that I know is like my workforce, and that like this is my zone right here. When I'm remote working at home, this is all I get done at. And then knowing my laptop is used for email, like my other 80% that you talked about.
Yeah. That's exactly it. I kind of now have a downstairs computer and an upstairs computer. This is my workstation down here. And then when I'm just, burning through emails and stuff like that on the couch, I can do that very easily from the other.
Totally. I think one thing that we kind of forget about too, we talk about like all the cool technology portions too. Like I've seen so many people bust out laptops that are really heavy too. Like you also can't deny, like when you have a really light laptop, that is most of the weight in your backpack, and you'll notice a difference. You can wear your backpack longer. You can, truck it around a lot easier. Definitely go the light route. All right. Accessories. You want to talk about accessories and all the crazy things? And my bag's full of random stuff too that makes my life easier. So why don't we kick it off with what one of your favorite things is inside your bag?
Well, yeah, I mean, a couple simple tips is one is for both of these laptops, one of the first things that I do is buy a second power cord. So since my MacBook was living on my desk at work, the number of times that I would accidentally leave the power cable on my desk at work and then run off to a show kept happening. So I was like, no, I need to buy a second one that just lives in my bag. So I highly recommend it. I know they're expensive, especially for Macs, but just that peace of mind of not having to worry about it. And then I haven't done with that with the Samsung because it runs on USB-C, which is the same charger as my phone. So if I forget to pack the power adapter for the Chromebook, I'm not out of luck because I can just use the adapter for my phone. So always have a spare charger for your laptop that lives in your bag. And then the other two things that I keep in here is one is a Monster power cable that is a mini outlet strip. So it's got 4 outlets. And I probably have to use this on every single show for one reason or another. Whether it's you're at a tech table and you just need a couple more outlets to plug in your phone and stuff. And it's perfect because it all folds in on itself, and it's easy to just throw in a pocket in one of your many pockets in your bag. And then the last one that I'll throw in is, and this is every single technical director that I know has one of these. Which is the Logitech.
Is that the old one or the new one too?
Logitech M570. I used to have one of the older ones. I think this is the newer one.
Okay.
At least within the last couple of years, there was a really
they have a brand new one that came out
new one
ago. Yeah, it's called, I think, the Trackball MX or something like that. We'll link it down below in the show description.
But it's great. You can just keep the little USB adapter in the bottom, so it's easy to just throw it into your bag. And I have never changed the battery on it. I mean, I've probably had it pushing 3 years. And
Trackballs last forever.
I've never changed it. And I just find that over mice, my hands don't get as crimped up. So if I'm going to be doing a lot of clicking around, I really like it. So those are the accessories that I would recommend.
Awesome. I've never gotten to trackballs, but I know Chris Simmons is prolific, loves the trackball, and he dies by it. I'll give you the other side. If you're not into trackballs, this is my go-to mouse. This is the newest version of it, the Logitech MX Master 2S. There's the MX Master. It's the same thing. Probably can get it for $50 less or whatever. And then the Performance MX is the 3rd generation behind, which is still pretty good. It's nice. It sculpts your hand really well. It works on every surface. You can switch between 3 devices. It uses Bluetooth. So if, for example, on my laptop, I used to use the Bluetooth versus carrying the dongle with me. Absolutely love this mouse. This was actually my desktop mouse too, until I recently switched to a different mouse, which is not a travel mouse. So I'm not even going to bring it up. So definitely the MX Master is one of my favorite mouse. And I had my other one I had that was my previous generation's one I gave to my girlfriend to make it her travel mouse. So definitely recommend that mouse. If you like smaller mice, there's the MX Anywhere 2S, which is a smaller version of that. But to be honest, this is so comfortable. It may actually kind of miss it on my desktop a little bit. All right, next thing is this bad boy. So I make a ton of calls. I'm obviously in meetings all the time. I do a ton of video calls. And, I'm just constantly on the phone. I am not a big fan of using my actual phone. I actually use my computer to do calls. Because I can bring up more information. Our CRM does calls, so I actually need some sort of USB or Bluetooth headset. However, I've never been a big fan of Bluetooth headsets to the computer. There's always a delay. They don't sound good. Battery life usually sucks. But I've recently been using a wired USB headset until I found this. And this actually might replace, I might buy another pair of these to be at home, but this is the Plantronics Focus headset. You'll recognize something. You'll recognize like the mic portion. It looks just like one that goes straight in your ear. However, it goes over your head, which I like a lot more because it's a little bit more comfortable. You get stereo audio so you can listen to music. This has noise canceling as well. And it also can connect via a USB dongle, which is what I love about it. So I plug the USB dongle in my computer, and it also has Bluetooth, so it connects to my phone. And I can switch between calls on my phone and my computer instantly. It has, control tracks. You can hang up with calls by touching your ear. It's wireless. I used to have that wired USB headset, and I would be in coffee shops, and like if I'm just on a voice call, I'd be like, well, I have to sit at my coffee shop while I have this call. Whereas now I can get up on the middle of a call, go place another cup of order coffee while I'm listening to what someone's talking about. Really awesome. This is the Plantronics Focus. Not cheap. It just came out, but these is incredible. Sounds great. So comfortable. Really happy. If you do a lot of calls on the road, that is amazing. And then my last, when we're talking about headsets, this is a staple that everyone knows, is the Bose Quiet Comfort headline. These are the Bluetooth ones. These are amazingly comfortable. The one thing that a lot of people don't know, I don't have them on me. I don't know where they're hidden. I gave them to my girlfriend because I have a new music kind of day-to-day audio. But when I'm on planes, this is what I wear. They also make a in-ear version that goes around your neck, has little earbuds. Good sound canceling. Not as good as these, but I love them. But if you're on planes, you need quiet noise, you want to listen to a movie, seriously, like I know they're expensive, but just do them. Yeah. So that's the wired version. They make a wireless version of that exact same in-ear headphone too, which is awesome. So I haven't
upgraded to do it, but yeah, I'll vouch for the fact that the in-ear ones are not as good, obviously, as the big muffs that go over your ears, but man, they're really pretty good. I was really impressed the first time that I plugged them in, how much noise they knocked down just using that active canceling. Totally. I would love to move into some of the living in the hotel world, as far as, how do we work in hotels? How do we stay? Because I feel like we've kind of been dealing with airplanes and that kind of stuff. But I do want to throw one more headset-y type thing in.
Ooh.
Dun. I said it. There it is. So you and I both AV guys, but even a lot of planners wind up spending a lot of time on ClearCom, on headset. So I would say anybody that spends more than a little bit of time on ClearCom should
one show. More than one show.
Should invest in one of these, which is it's a ClearCom lightweight over the head headset.
So buy your own versus you continuing to use the one that you recommend.
So maybe about one in every 5 shows, the sets that they use will be incompatible. But this is by far the number one style of headset. So it just goes over the back of my head like that, and then it's got this tiny, tiny lightweight earbud that goes in the ear. And it's so lightweight and so comfortable, I will, forget that I've got it on and try and walk away from the table and, jerk my head away and all that kind of stuff. So it's made by ClearCom. It is the ClearCom CC27 in-ear wraparound heads or single ear wraparound headset 4-pin. It's selling right now for $166. I'm pretty sure I got it for less than that. It probably closer to $100, $125. But it's again one of those things where that sounds like kind of a lot of money, but it's been so worth it from not having that giant heavy headset on all day kind of thing. So like I said, again, if you're spending any time on a headset, I'd highly recommend just buy your own and bring it with you on every show.
I want to say I've mentioned these on a previous EventIcons episode, but another headphone recommendation, I said I ditched the Bose ones for the in-ears for a new one. These are the Zolo in-ear. I obviously don't have Apple, so I don't have the, whatever they're called, AirPods. These trump the AirPods in sound quality, though. They're really good. They're noise canceling as well. Again, I'm not as good as the Bose, but these are what I wear in my ears pretty much every day. Zolo Liberty Pluses. Highly recommend them. Don't like to take calls on them, though, because it's like the mic's up here. It just picks up too much ambient noise. I like something that can go right in front of my face, like a ClearCom headset. All right. Anything else in the bag? I'm trying to think if I have anything else that's really good. I was going to start talking about connectivity. And people, we talk about computers, and we talk about how you're living in Chrome. Obviously, you need to be on the internet a lot. So, I'm curious to know, like, when you're on an airplane, are you buying the Wi-Fi? Are you not buying the Wi-Fi? What's your kind of mentality around that?
I have two tips on that. One is have T-Mobile because they give you an hour, and I'm in Minneapolis. I'm less than 3 hours away from basically everywhere, and usually, there's enough time going up and enough time going down that you really only get like an hour's worth of work in almost all the flights. Sometimes it's a little bit more than that. So that usually covers me as I just do it on my phone to quick, triage email and stuff like that. If I do need more that, and I'm going to need to hook up my laptop or something along those lines, I will usually, again, buy them in 1 hour increments as opposed to that, that full flight, $16 thing. A lot of times the 1 hour increments are down in the $6 range. Yep. And again, that's all you really need. So it's going to be a lot less expensive usually to buy those 1 hour increments. And again, not again, I guess I didn't say that, but buy them in advance. Get them in advance because they're usually more expensive the day of the flight. So anytime
on the flight, you get further and further into the flight, they start multiplying the cost. So by the time you're in that last hour, that 1 hour cost will be $20 and the full flight cost is $50.
Yeah. And this kind of drifts into some of the other questions that have come in, regarding getting work done on planes and trains and stuff. And this is me personally, but I just don't work well on a plane. That that's my time to listen to podcasts and, chill out and look out the window. And I always, for years, I would say, oh yeah, I'll do that on the plane. I'll do that on the plane. And then I never would get it done on the plane. So I've come to terms with that I just don't work on planes other than, like I said, kind of triaging email. And I'll do that while I'm listening to podcasts. And just to enjoy it, you're able to kind of arrive rested, and comfortable as opposed to having been working the whole time. And I think there's something to be said for productivity. There's also something to be said for kind of arriving fresh and
True.
Relaxed.
So I'm the opposite. I used to be I do mix where it's, if it was after hours, I did movies, but now I just forget to download movies beforehand. So now I'm just I just get on the internet. So I actually decided to do the unlimited 2-device American Airlines plan through GoGo. So you get 2 devices. So I connect my phone and my computer, which allows me answer text messages and stuff on my computer. But also if I'm in the plane with someone else, from my employees, I can also give them access to it as well, which is really, really helpful. So I've liked that a lot. I just decided I was buying Wi-Fi every flight. A quick pro tip too is that a lot of times the Wi-Fi sucks. There's obviously things you can do, compress, there's a data saver app for Chrome that compresses everything through Google before it comes to you. And there's, ways to use, for example, Opera browser has this lightning fast mode, I think it's called, that allows you that compresses everything, makes it a lot easier. Really, really cool, makes it faster. But occasionally you get to a time where the Wi-Fi is just unusable. I found, don't tell GoGo this is definitely public, so they're probably going to hear about this. But I'm on their monthly plan, so I guess they can't come after me now. So if it ever doesn't work, just email them afterwards and say, the internet didn't work, I didn't enjoy it. They will credit you for the next flight. And what I found is you can just basically live off of credits for the rest of whenever you want to use it. I just got too tired of having to email them every single time to do that. So I did it. One thing I did want to give a shout out, it's called Viastat, and it's the new plane Wi-Fi. I had it on the way from Phoenix to San Diego for a meeting or something like that. And oh my gosh, you have it from the time you get in the plane. It works as you're taking off and as you're coming down, and then until you get to the tarmac. And it was 30 megabytes per second down. It was lightning, not lightning fast like my home internet, but it was still way faster. I could get everything done. I didn't even notice I was on a plane. So be look on out for that. Check to make sure your planes have Viastat. If you really need to get things done, maybe pick the planes that have that. That would be my recommendation. And it was so light and fast. I think it's in the testing period with American Airlines, so it's all free right now, which is really cool. But obviously that's not going to last very long.
Hey, Tracy Fuller says, hi guys. Hi, Tracy.
Hello, Tracy.
Tracy's on Facebook. Hello, Facebook. Just a reminder, everybody else that's watching there live, if you've got a question for us or want to share a tip regarding what your road warrior tips, please do punch it into the chat or the Q&A on here on Zoom, or punch it into the chat on Facebook. And if you have any questions for us about something that we haven't hit so far, be sure and punch that in as well.
Speaking of connectivity, I'm very surprised not a lot of people have this. I see all the time where people are asking to bum it off of me or whatever it is, but people who do not have a little MiFi, little Wi-Fi hotspot, just add the device. It's an extra $10 per month. Share it with your current data and just grab one of these. This thing, I use this all the time. I originally bought this actually to put in my car so my car stereo could connect to the internet. But then I found that I just use it way too much for work. And this is just such a life changer. You like in that emergency scenario where a Wi-Fi goes down, something's just not working. You don't have to be like, oh, well, I guess I'm out of internet. Also, you don't have to worry about sacrificing your phone's battery life when we know how bad phone batteries lives are. But yeah, these are awesome. Usually you can get rebated to free, and it's $10 a month, shares the same Wi-Fi. Just go and get one. It's so worth it. And I can't believe that not everyone has one of those. So
I just use the hotspot on the phone, but then I have one of these, which is a 10,400 milliamp battery from Aki, and it's also got the quick charge in it. So I mean, it just absolutely
charges your laptop too.
Yeah, it will now. Yeah, I can absolutely use that for my laptop as well.
The thing I've noticed, to give you that I've heard that argument before. The one thing you want to keep in mind though is these are designed to output Wi-Fi, whereas your phone isn't necessarily. So these actually have stronger antennas to connect to the network to get more data than your phone will, because your phone's obviously designed to have a long battery life. So that's the one thing I recommend. Obviously, like it all depends, and it's all personal preference, but that's my recommendation.
Yeah, I'm only usually ever going a couple of feet, so it's not that big of a deal for me.
I've definitely been the guy. I'm backstage and I'll be like answering emails while the rest of the team's like working on the event, and they go, Will, turn your hotspot. And then before I know it, 10 of my crew is all on a hotspot, and it has to stretch like the whole convention center. So been there way too many times. Okay. We've talked about connectivity. What's next?
I would love to go health. It was something that I would really love to talk about.
There's a lot of health questions in here. Yeah. We got a lot of questions about health. All right. Hit me with a hard health question, since I'm obviously the most prime example.
Well, I mean, I've been on the road now for 20 years. I mean, and so it's been a struggle for me personally to find these, ways to stay healthy. And I'm not in my 20s anymore. And so, unfortunately, a lot of the food and stuff that's on site isn't that hot. So I guess I'd ask, Will, how do you find ways to stay healthy on the road? How do you find ways to keep yourself eating right and, living that healthy lifestyle as opposed to living the road lifestyle?
I don't. I live the road lifestyle.
Okay. All right.
So we have 2 episodes I'll recommend that you go watch that. Yep. I'm just going to take my answers. Episode 96, which is our second part, to episode 47, which is they're both about healthy event profs and how do you stay healthy on the road. Yep. We already did those episodes. I'm just going to steal all their answers and say, just watch those episodes.
Watch those. Okay.
But I'm horrible. I mean, I love food. That's my favorite part of traveling. I ate shrimp and grits like 4 times this last week when I was in New Orleans. There's definitely a lot to it. What I found though, my biggest thing is I do a standing desk. Whenever I'm working, I usually go to coffee shops. I'm going to give a shout out to another random thing, because I don't know when I'm going to get to plug it again, called workfrom.co. It's a website, workfrom.co. It allows you to find the best places to work, and you can filter by how noisy it is, how many outlets they have, how fast their Wi-Fi. You actually can see how fast their Wi-Fi is in megabytes per second, what kind of if they have food or drink, if it costs money to you, like if it's a co-working space or if it's a coffee shop. But no matter where I work, I always try to find a bar, and I try to stand at it. It's really easy for me to just post at a coffee shop and hunch over my laptop and do that. But I try to incorporate those standing habits as much as I can. But to be honest, I don't exercise at all when I'm on the road. I'm usually too tired to, and I'm usually guilty of just eating the most delicious food ever, which is horrible. I'm the bad example. Do the opposite of everything.
Okay.
It's opposite day.
Yay. Well, the thing that I'll say to that is I struggled with that for a long time as well. And somebody finally said something that clicked and kind of made a lot of sense, is that, and you even kind of said it, that when you're traveling is when you're eating. And so there's a mindset that sometimes comes with being on vacation, that when you're on vacation, you eat whatever you want, you drink whatever you want. Obviously when you're working, you can't get up whenever you want, but it's still that mindset of, well, I'm not at home and I'm traveling, so therefore I eat and drink whatever I want. And you have to kind of remind yourself you're working. And so, you wouldn't have a cocktail in the middle of the day, in the office, and you wouldn't eat, a 3-course meal of bacon and eggs, at home. So the thing that I've tried to focus on is trying to bring my road life and my home life as close to each other as possible, so that however I'm eating at home, I try and eat the same way on the road. However I'm eating in the road, I try and eat the same way at home. And really, that's a nice way to kind of keep it straight, that I wouldn't do this at home, so I shouldn't do it here. And vice versa. I actually picked up some good habits from the road that I kind of brought home, as far as I can't think of one off the top of my head. I know there was a couple of them, but just noticed, okay, I don't normally this is how I get up when I'm on the road, as opposed to hitting snooze 17 times like I do at home. So that kind of thing. Like, again, I wouldn't hit snooze 17 times on the road. I probably shouldn't do it, when I'm here. So keep your home life and your road life as similar as possible, including same toothpaste, same soap, same shampoo, same mouthwash. I know a lot of people that say, I'll just use what's at the hotel. But I think that contributes to that same mentality of, I'm somewhere different, so therefore the rules don't apply. And exercise. So this is something I've struggled with over the last few years, is trying to find an exercise program that I can do on the road. Now, you and I, right? We've got 5 a.m. calls. We got to get up, get to the show, so you don't have that, I can take an hour off and go to the gym, and then there's plenty of time to shower and that kind of thing. So what I have found, though, is I do have 10 minutes. And so I've really been focusing on workouts that take 10 minutes or less, that I can usually do in the hotel room. And, sometimes it's nice to get out and get to the gym or something and just do some walking, but really focusing on like kind of, what do they call it? Interval training, where you do like 30 seconds of jumping jacks, pause for 15 seconds, 30 seconds of push-ups, pause for 30 seconds. So I've got my routine down now, where it's basically the same at both home and on the road. And, like I say, you might not have an hour, but, to go to the gym and then take a shower, but you might have an hour total where you could get back to your room, get sweaty for 10 minutes, hop in the shower real quick, and be back down in the show in 45 minutes.
Ooh, I like it. Oh man. And I know you love the 5-minute, 7-minute workout app.
Yeah. 7-minute workout is an app. Yeah. There's a bunch of different apps for it. The original came from like the New York Times or something like that. It was like,
something like that.
7-minute workout.
Like Ellen DeGeneres has one. Everyone has a 7-minute workout app. Speaking of like timing things, we have a question in the audience asking about, a lot of times like you and I specifically, we spend a lot of time sitting, staring at stages. I kind of, a lot of times I try to walk the whole site when we have breakout rooms and everything like that. But what's your like work schedule like when, let's say, for example, you have a call from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. Are you working after that, doing emails and preparing for the next show? What does that look like? And how do you kind of like pace your work when you're traveling? Like how do you treat your travel days, all that sort of stuff?
It depends on the show. I mean, there's shows where, you've got plenty of time, to kind of sit through the show. When I'm calling a show, on the headset, calling the cues, unfortunately, I always feel like I really have to be paying attention, so like closely. So I don't usually get as much of that kind of stuff done. You'll look over and like the audio guy is playing, something on his iPad or something. And I feel like, you kind of have to be paying attention if you're calling the show. So those shows I don't get as much done. And so honestly, it depends on the day, depends on the show. Sometimes I just fall behind. And that's, again, where it's kind of nice for, to sit on the plane, listen to podcasts, and just triage the email, not feel like I have to answer every single email, but at least get it knocked down so that when I am back in the office, I can dive right in.
Nice. Yeah, same thing. I think that, I'm more like, I have more of an account management role. So a lot of times when I'm showing up on site, I'm there mainly to make sure the client's happy. So I get big chunks of time, usually during shows, where I'm backstage, getting ready for the next show, answering emails. But then like I'll get up and walk around, make sure everything's going okay, or, help someone out when they need it at a moment's notice. But one thing I try to avoid is like late night working. I've heard a lot of people that can totally do this, but that just burns me out, where like we do have a show till 5 p.m. Then they're like, okay, I'm gonna go to 4 hours of emails, proposals, or whatever it is. Like I have to do that when like I'm in emergency mode and so client's like, I need a proposal by the end of the day. And I'm like, what? I'm on site. But then I'll get it done. But a lot of times, like I don't try to create more work than usual. And I think the biggest thing with that is setting client expectations too. I think not communicating to them within 24 hours can be bad, but but setting it to let them know like, hey, like I need a week when I get back into the office to get this done. And just understand what their timeline is, because I find that a lot of times people say, hey, I need this now, when they just are saying like, I need it now because I feel like that's when I want it. But really you say like, hey, I can get this in a week. They're like, okay, that's totally cool. So I think setting client expectations is really, really huge when it comes
we could do an entire another episode about that kind of thing, because I've got some really strong opinions about communicating with clients and things that I've seen over the course of my career of how I think you should and shouldn't do it. So we might have to come back to that at some point.
And yeah, so a lot of times that, like I also try to find like a dedicated space to get some work done. Again, like coffee shops. I don't do work inside the hotel unless like I'm like by the time I find a coffee shop, I get the thing done that I need to do and then move on. Then I'll just knock it out real quick at the hotel. But always try to find like a dedicated space, just like you have a dedicated office space at home. Try to do the same thing when I'm on the road to get my head in the right mind. I saw a really good question. So when international travel comes in, so like some of people are starting to do international travel. How do you deal with work when you're dealing with massive time zone gaps? Not having your phone on you, like SIM card doesn't work, obviously. Like, what do you do? Like, what are your go-to international tips that you have when doing international travel that you found?
Well, I'm not a paid spokesperson, but again, I'm really happy with T-Mobile. So one of the nice perks of T-Mobile is that you get basic texting and internet for free in most European countries and a lot of places around the world. And then if you want faster, you can just pay not very much compared to Big Red or a couple of the other companies. So I find those plans to be very useful. So that helps me stay in touch on the road. And I forget what the second half of the question, sorry.
No, it's okay. I was just like general international tips. So I'll piggyback off that while you're thinking about what the next tip is going to be. I have two that I use. So I use Verizon when I'm in the States, but Verizon's outrageously expensive everywhere else. Don't do it. So my recommendations is when I'm in long-term travel in a different country, I need my phone everywhere. I have a Google Pixel phone. If you have a Nexus phone, any Google phone, Google Fi. I mean, it was one of the best decisions. It uses T-Mobile, Sprint, and Wi-Fi, and it worked perfectly. It's extremely cheap. It just worked. So what I do is I switch all my next system, which I'll talk about in a second, to forward to my Google Fi number. And, I'm primarily using data apps like Slack and things like that to communicate with my team. So no one's really texting me. If you're texting me, you're probably like my friends at home and they can probably wait while I'm traveling. Right. So the second piece of the communication I use a system called Dialpad. It used to be called Switch, but you just go to dialpad.com. It's a virtual PBX system. So it's like having a phone where you can transfer calls and record and do all the fancy things, but it's all on your computer and your phone. So again, like I said, I do all my calls through the computer. The reason why I like it is it uses purely data if you'd like it to, or it can do carrier calls through the carrier as well. But for example, if I'm taking calls, I actually taking calls and I have my 602 number and people call me all the time. They're like, hey, blah, blah, blah. Well, I'm like, hey, blah, 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 this. And they're like, hey, can you do this? I'm like, yeah, totally. It's 9:00 here. And they're like, what? It's 9 a.m. here. Where are you? I'm like, oh, I'm in, Croatia. And they're like, oh, okay. And then it's great because it allows you to call people and just continue work as usual with no hiccups at all. So highly recommend Dialpad. If you have a team, I love it. Allows you to do voice calls, text messaging, all that stuff, as if I'm right in the States. So. Yeah,
I think that it touches back on the previous question about communicating with clients. Just being honest about that unless you are going to be staying up all night so that you can answer emails and stuff in U.S. time zones, you need to let people know and just say, hey, I'm going to be in Croatia for the next week and things might be on a time delay. And anytime you're working with anybody, with more and more virtual offices becoming, popular, you don't know where anybody's going to be. So I'm finding more and more often it's really polite to ask, what time zone are you in? So that you have some idea of what time of night, they're working, what time of day they're working. Other international stuff is obviously pay attention to the travel adapters.
I have a good recommendation for that one.
Okay. Yeah.
Called the Power Cube.
Okay.
It's my go-to. I lose them every time I do an international trip, but I will in a heartbeat buy another one. It's like kind of like yours. It's got 4 outlets on each side, but then the plug is interchangeable with all different kinds. So if I'm going to Croatia and Spain, I can bring either one of those adapters, really quickly switch it out, and it gives you that surge protector aspect and has 2 USB ports. I love it. It's the size of like a little cube like this big. And awesome. So that's a really cool Power Cube. I love that thing.
Yeah, the other thing you can do is borrow one from Adam Perry, because that's what I wound up doing on my last show. Anybody knows him? Yeah, Adam's event industry news guy. But yeah, you have to pay attention country to country. It's different. For a lot of people, that's really obvious, but I've made, even as a seasoned traveler, I've, made the mistake and assumed the wrong one. And been like, oh, I think that's going to be a European, and then it wound up being, a UK style or something along those lines. So, really take the time to look it up before you go,
or just bring all the adapters with you just in case.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh my gosh. What are the questions we got in here? We got a lot.
What about jet lag? Since we're talking international, any tips for surviving jet lag?
So I tend to, as I'm gearing up for a trip. So tomorrow I'm lucky. I'm going to LA. It's the same exact time zone as Phoenix right now. Yeah, we don't believe in days at the same time. Basically, like, let's say, for example, I'm going to New York, and 3-hour difference right now. I will start the day of just imagining I'm in New York time zone. So, like, obviously, you have a clock everywhere. Everything's going to say 9 a.m. I just start thinking, like, okay, it's noon. I probably should eat. I usually try to, if I'm gearing up for a flight too, I try to eat right like around that schedule. So what I found is I usually am really good when my flights land between 2 meal periods. So I'll try to, like, for example, if I'm gearing up to go on a flight and it's 9 a.m. in Phoenix and it's noon in New York, I'll eat lunch or breakfast or some meal to act like lunch. And what I found is that meals are one of the best ways to, like, reset their circadian rhythm. I'm not like a scientist or anything, but someone gave me that recommendation. So I use meals to kind of offset it. Again, I love food, so I'm not helping myself at all, but I try to, like, start thinking I'm in that time zone. So even, like, when I'm coming back to Phoenix and I'm going to be losing time, like when I did from New Orleans back here, I was already like, it's earlier than it really is. Just act like it's Phoenix time. And I think the problem is a lot of people are like, it's 9 a.m. back in Phoenix. It's like noon here, like, so thrown off. It's like, just like get your head out of it. Just forget it, relax. Like, and I think the more you think about it, the more it sets you off. So what about you?
Similar. So yeah, the big one is food and daytime. So, especially if you're on the long haul flights, and you get in early in the morning, stay up and resist the urge. Don't do anything more than like a 20-minute nap in the afternoon. Stay up all the way through. And then the third thing that I'm hearing is don't drink yourself to sleep. So even that'll mess with you more than it'll help you. So, totally. Do your best to, especially on longer flights, like you said, kind of set your watch, set your mindset to the time you're going to be landing in, and start getting your body on that schedule as quickly as possible. And I had something else, but I forgot it.
One thing is make sure that you're setting your time zones right in your calendar.
Yeah.
The most common thing that I have is that, like, you're scheduling meetings in that, like, let's say, for example, someone sends that, hey, let's get a meeting in Phoenix, New York at noon, and too many people schedule it on their calendar on Phoenix time. And then they show up in New York and they're like, oh, it's already past noon. I missed the meeting or whatever it is. And then I've also seen it vice versa, where, like, oh, it's set wrong. So I recommend, if you're scheduling things in 2 different time zones, go in Google Calendar and select that time zone versus trying to, like, okay, 3-hour difference. Otherwise, you'll get screwed when daylight savings time switches too, and you just like, oh crap, I didn't know that was the time it was supposed to be. So set the time zone, and then also when you land, usually when it connects to Wi-Fi, it detects where you are, and it'll say, hey, do you want to change the time zone? Do that immediately. Just do that immediately. I've done it far too often where I somehow miss it or something happens, and I'm sitting there, I'm like, oh my gosh, I have a meeting at 4 o'clock. Like, I have that thing going on. And then I'm like, reset, like, oh, actually it's 7 o'clock. Okay, I'm good. All that jazz.
I remember the third thing was, and we used to have a rule at the production company that I used to work at, which was you weren't allowed to complain about the time difference after the first day. So again, more about getting that mindset of, like, okay, for the first day you can be like, oh, I'm so tired. But then, like, after that, you got to shut up.
Totally. And
something you can't say, oh, I wonder what time it is back at home. You can't be like, you're done. You're done with it.
Done with it. I think naturally this has come from the AV industry, and we're this way. And I don't think a lot of other event people do this as much. I'm not sure, but we have this. Is like, most of the time when we schedule our staff and we're like, hey, Brandt, come do this show, you have a day of travel. So if our show loads in on Thursday, we fly you in on Wednesday. And usually I always tell the team, like, don't make that flight really late. Like, I tell everyone, like, you guys, like, unless you absolutely just really, like, need to do something in home and you have to leave a late flight, like, just get in early, get settled in, have that day to like settle in. And yeah, you can be doing emails and things like that. Go see a little bit of the city, but like the worst times I've seen in rec people is like, they're like, I'm going to fly in, do a load in. And I'm like, you're going to hate your life. But you know, that's their choice.
I feel like we're going to have to do a part 2 of this episode.
I feel like as well.
Half the stuff that I wanted to talk about. I don't know about you.
No, there's always way more to talk about for sure. Let's go with this last one. Make this a fun one because I don't think we've done enough resources, I think, and enough tips. But keeping relationships going while you're on the road.
Yeah, that's exactly where I was thinking maybe we could go.
So,
yeah, it's hard, right? It's hard, especially with like what we were just talking about, time zones, right? So that was something that, you know, my wife and I struggled with early on in our relationship. It's something that I struggle with the kids now. It's actually getting a little bit better now that the kids are getting old enough to use devices a little bit more often. We're not like we weren't like really anti-devices, but I did want to kind of push it off for as long as possible. You know, just because there's always going to be time to learn that stuff. That's another whole subject that we could go down. But it's getting a little bit easier because now I can kind of send messages back and forth with my oldest, and you know, just hey, daddy, how you doing? Miss you. Emoji. You know, that kind of stuff. And so that's being more. And I'm trying to be better about it too. But with the time zones, it's tough. And so you know, my wife would kind of razz me about it until like the first time that she went to California, and like, oh yeah, I'll call you guys every night. Then like, you know, even just that 2-hour time difference is enough to, you know, oh, you know, she's going to dinner while we're getting ready for bed, and you know, and then you forget, and then it's time, and the kids are in bed, and it's too late.
Totally. My recommendation for it is actually I actually got this from like when I was in like dating worlds, and it got recommended as a dating app primarily, but it's the best for communicating asynchronously. I mean, I think that's why it's an app called Glide. It's a video messaging essentially. Makes sense. So everyone's used to everyone's Snapchatting, but the problem with Snapchat is a 10-second long video. You're going to show maybe something cool that you're doing for a second. You're going to say, hey, I love you, bye, you know, and that's it. Where Glide is 10-minute long videos. And the best part is immediately when you hit send, it starts sending them to them. So what's great about it is if they're available and they're like looking at their phone and they're not doing anything, they can start watching it as it's happening, which is allowing it to be a little bit more live. But then if they miss it, they can come back and watch it anytime. And I absolutely love Glide for this. So if you're struggling to keep relationships going while on the road, I highly recommend it. It's also great if you're in the dating world because it's a great way to get to know people face to face. But it's a free app. You know, they're trying to push a premium version, but the free app works perfectly. It's awesome. Absolutely love it. We've mentioned on the show, actually, Alex, we mentioned it in our favorite things of the year, I think, episode in December. Whatever episode that was, I'm sure we'll get in the show notes, but our favorite episode of the year. I love that app. Video calling, FaceTime, Duo. Anytime I can, face as much as possible.
Yep.
Phone calls are great when I'm like, hey, I'm doing this while doing this. I want to talk to you. But like, I think, you know, the second you can see someone's some facial reaction, things like that, see if they're sad or happy, just allows you to build that relationship a little bit more.
Text is great during the show or, you know, for a quick, you know, here and there. But yeah, once you, and I'm trying to be better about it as well. As you know, as soon as you get back to that room, all you want to do is change clothes and get out of there. But just take the 5 minutes to call home and say, hey.
And then I think the best time too is like schedule time when you are home to spend with people. You know, a lot of like, I always try to do it where like my travel day is the day that it's very much like I'm watching movies on the plane, I'm watching YouTube videos. And then when I get home, obviously I'm with like my girlfriend. I'm like, I try to do that. But then like, if I have like the next day, I'm trying to go see friends. I'm trying to catch up on a movie that we missed. I see movies every Thursday. So if I'm traveling, we put that on halt. So the second we get back, everyone's like, we got to go see the movie we missed. We got to go see this. We have a board game night. Make time to do it and schedule it because it's really easy for you to say, oh yeah, we'll hang out in like 2 weeks from here. Boom, you're on another trip and, you know, you're gone for another week. And so I think, again, communication throughout it. And then I think also clear communication too for your relationships. For anyone who's single out there, set it forth that to let them know, like, you're going to be traveling a lot. I think that's something I've seen ruin my relationships before. Past girlfriends. But like, if they don't understand what it's like, they're like, oh, it's so cool. You travel all the time. You're like, yeah, you're going to get really lonely. You need someone who's going to definitely go out there and do things, I think too. I think that's huge. So.
Yeah. And that's exactly it. And another, you know, kind of eye-opening moment was the first time my wife came with me on site and, you know, was able to see, wow, you weren't kidding. You really are busy from 6:30 in the morning until 9 o'clock at night. And just like, yeah, I am. I really am. I wasn't just saying that because I didn't want to chat.
Another thing that I've been trying to do too is like make time. I obviously it depends on your significant other. I think we're talking mainly about significant others. Well, I guess I am. But you know, see if you can get time for them to come out to you. Like you said, come out to on site. You know, sometimes there's shows where you know, like, no, you're not going to enjoy us. You can go see San Francisco without me, and they have to obviously know that. But every once in a while, get them to come out and hang out with you while you're on the road because they'll love to get to see what you do, but also like it's so cool to be able to like show what you do on work because a lot of times like they just see you on home on your laptop planning and making phone calls. They think that's all you do, but then they get to call a show and they're like, that's so cool. So talk to like your employer, say, hey, is it okay if I bring XYZ with me so you can see it? And at least this is how Endless would work. If Brandt said like, I'm going to bring my wife because I want to show her XYZ show, in a heartbeat, I'd be like, heck yeah, bring her up. I'd love to meet her. Like, let's bring the kids too. Like, let's do it because I think like the more you can include them, the better. And relationships are really important. Don't let that, I think that's the biggest thing is don't let that like get lapsed in your travels. So, and on a positive note, we got 20 seconds left. Should we wrap up and maybe we do another part 2 of this?
Yeah, I think we should. I mean, it's one of those things that I always enjoy coming back to these types of episodes because we evolve. We're constantly changing and evolving. At least I am. What works for me on the road. It's a slow process, and you kind of discover something new as you move on.
Absolutely. And I think that's the best things too, is like we talked about with the bags earlier, is like you're going to find what works for you. And I thought you brought up a good point, like build the habits and build this and be like, that's your habits. Be religious with it. Like say that's what it's going to be. If you love a bag, stick with that bag. If you love a way that you travel, do it that way. Like, but don't let other people conform and screw up your habits because that's how you end up being unhappy for sure. Well, let's wrap up. We dropped so many resources and tips. I don't think we need to wrap up those questions. So let's go into the closing. So Brandt, tell everyone a little bit for anyone who's watching the show for the first time, or maybe they are watching on Facebook Live versus in the webinar. Can you tell everyone a little bit about what EventIcons, how it works, and how to get tuned in for next week?
Absolutely. I mean, it's every week. It's recorded live every Wednesday, 5 p.m. Eastern. You can watch behind the scenes on Facebook Live. Hello, Facebook Live. That's kind of, like I say, more behind the scenes, able to just kind of float in, check in, see how it's up. Maybe ask a question or two. But really, the best way to watch it is to sign up at event-icons.com. That way you can get involved in the actual Zoom. You can call in on the Zoom. You get the special link. You're right there. The chats go right to us. The questions go right to us. The chats go right to us. We can see, that you're there. Hello to Hope and Reed and Tony and Pam and Tracy. Tracy joined us on Facebook. Everybody else is joining us on Zoom. Those are just the names that I happen to see as I fly by. I'm trying to take note. I'm trying to watch more often these days who's joining us during the show.
But there's more to just when you sign up too, when you go to event-icons.com. Can I talk a little bit about that too?
Tell them, man. Tell them.
So there's we've been trying to add more value to this podcast. Obviously, like I'm just a huge value guy. I want to give as much as possible. So we made it like if you sign up, there's a lot more things that we can give you if you sign up as well. And one of them is the invite to our Facebook group. So we built up a Facebook group of all the viewers, but also we recently had 2 separate groups, one for the icons, the people guests of the show, and then one for all the people who talk about the episodes. What we realized is like, no, like the whole point of the show is for you to talk and meet these people. So we combine them. So all the icons that you see on the show from, Hugh, who we had last week from South by Southwest to
great show, by the way, great show. I was watching behind the scenes.
Gosh, there's so many amazing people we've had. They're all in that group. So you literally can scroll through the Facebook, add them on Facebook, message them, and continue the conversation on there. Or ask questions. We do questions. We post exclusive content. I just recently dropped a deal for the course I built, and the first people I offered it to was the EventIcons people. So we're constantly dropping exclusive stuff. I see people sharing a lot of really cool things in there. You got to join event-icons.com so you can get that invite. And then we also, if you're your first time watching, you also get all the greatest episodes, all the latest episodes. You get email notifications when it's coming up. You get the recordings delivered to you first before anybody else. There's a lot of really cool stuff that you get along the way. And then, so one of the things that we kind of want to hit with that, and I'll wrap up so you can get the outro ready, Brandt.
I got you, man. I got you covered.
All ready to go. Is that we honestly want to know what you guys think. We schedule these episodes out far in advance because we want to make sure that, hey, what episodes are coming up. all that jazz. But we want to know what you think. So use Twitter, hashtag EventIcons, go in the Facebook group, rant to us, tell us what you like, what you dislike. We want to hear your feedback. Tell us. If you're silent, we just assume that you guys love us so much. So definitely go check it out. And also let us know who you want to see. We basically, anytime you say, I want to see this person on the show, we go out there, we find that person, we get them on the show, and we put that together for you. This was an example of an episode that a lot of people said, like, hey, I'd love to hear more from Brandt and Will as far as how to get things down the road. So that's why we did this. So yeah, definitely go there, event-icons.com. Check it out. We'll see you there next week. And I think we're ready to get out of here. So you want to wish everybody goodbye, Brandt, and we'll see them all next week, 5 p.m. Eastern.
Bye, everybody. See you next week.
Bye, everybody.
Thank you for joining us for another amazing episode of #EventIcons. To catch the transcription and all of the resources mentioned, head to www.helloendless.com/blog. This week's episode will be posted and available by next Tuesday. Also, let us know what you thought about this week's episode. Share your biggest takeaway and join the social conversation. Sponsored by Little Bird Told Media. Just tag your post with #EventIcons. We'd love to hear from you. Thank you again for joining us. We'll see you next Wednesday at 5 p.m. Eastern, right here on #EventIcons.